It is Wednesday, May 27th, 2026, and this is the High Road Logistics and Leadership. I'm Jules Sterling, and I'm here to make sure these guys actually remember to talk to the shippers.
This is Dan Miller.
Buck Reynolds here.
And I'm Elena Rossi. We have a great show for you today.
Well, it's a busy one in the operations room today, folks. Yesterday, we were untangling that wild extortion ring takedown in Ontario and staring down record-high spot rates. I mean, $3.55 a mile for flatbed? It's getting sort of, well, intense out there, right?
It's a 2-minute drill every single morning now, Jules.
It really is. We're moving from yesterday's talk about Canadian labor declines and agentic AI straight into a massive regulatory storm in the rail yard and some life-changing legislation for the folks behind the wheel. Buck, I saw you pacing earlier when the rail news dropped.
Well, here's the deal. When you see two of the biggest names in the game trying to tie the knot while 6 state attorneys general are screaming bloody murder, yeah, I'm going to have some thoughts.
Look, the Great Connection is the play of the decade, Buck. Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern, $85 billion. We're talking about the first ever coast-to-coast freight rail, 50,000 miles.
But Dan, I mean, isn't it sort of stuck? The Surface Transportation Board has that big deadline in, 72 hours?
May 30th. That's the red zone. The STB has to decide if they even accept the application. But yesterday, Montana's AG, Austin Knutson, led a 6-state charge to block it. They're calling it a regulatory shell game.
Because it is, Dan. They filed 7 separate amendments. It's impossible for anyone to actually conduct a forensic review of the market impact when the goalposts keep moving. You see, the AGs are worried about the downstream effect.
Meaning BNSF and CSX are going to have to merge just to keep up. And then what do we have? 2 railroads? I mean, my thing is, we already have service issues in the Midwest. You cram these 2 together, and you're just creating one big, slow-moving glacier.
Look, we need single-line service. Shippers are tired of the handoffs at the Mississippi. It's inefficient. It's like trying to run a flea flicker with 2 different playbooks.
Well, okay, but the AGs are saying they're missing critical data on the TTX railcar pool and joint assets in St. Louis. If they haven't done the math on the carpool, how do we know the equipment will even be where it needs to be, right?
Precisely. Compliance isn't a suggestion, Dan. If you omit the impact on the Terminal Railroad Association, you aren't presenting a merger. You're presenting a wish list.
It's the small guys I worry about. You get one mega railroad, they don't care about the guy moving 10 cars of grain a month. They want the big unit trains. They're going to starve out the short lines.
But the volume, Buck, the sheer efficiency of a coast-to-coast line could pull thousands of trucks off the highway and back onto the rail.
Yeah, until they have a derailment that shuts down 40 states at once.
Speaking of things that actually help the drivers, though, can we talk about the Build America 250 Act? Because, honestly, this feels like a win we've been waiting for.
It is. The House T&I Committee finally moved it forward. $580 billion.
And $750 million, specifically for truck parking. I mean, it's about time we stopped treating parking like an optional luxury, right?
It's only taken them 30 years to listen to us. I've spent too many nights parked on an off-ramp with one eye open, hoping a distracted four-wheeler doesn't clip my mirror.
Look, the parking is huge. But did you see Section 5102? Mandatory restroom access at shippers and receivers.
I know. It sounds so basic, but it's a total game changer for driver dignity. Well, and retention, obviously.
It's pathetic we need a federal law to let a human being use a toilet. But I'll take it. I mean, my thing is, the $750 million is just the start. We need to make sure that money doesn't get sucked up by consultants and actually turns into asphalt.
What's interesting is the funding mechanism. For the first time, they're actually addressing the EV gap. Electric vehicles and hybrids will have to pay an annual registration fee, $130 for pure EVs.
Finally, they use the roads, they gotta pay the tolls. No more free rides on the Highway Trust Fund just because you've got a battery.
It's sort of a fair play move, right? Everyone contributes to the maintenance, and OIDOA is backing this thing 100%. They called it the most pro-trucker bill in recent memory.
Well, it's a good start, but let's see if it survives the Senate without getting larded up with a bunch of bridge-to-nowhere projects.
All right, switching gears. Before we dive into the retail madness, a quick word from the folks who keep the lights on here.
Strategic logistics requires world-class engineering, and that's why this show is powered by the stack developed by Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media. He's the architect behind the code that keeps our data flowing.
If you value the deep analysis we provide, support the engineer.
You can visit our Patreon at patreon.com/neuralnetworkmedia. They've got a free trial going, and you get access to our daily briefing PDF, which, trust me, you need if you're trying to track these rail mergers.
Support the architect. Now, let's talk about Walmart, because they just dropped a tactical nuke on the LTL market.
What now?
The PCP, Prepaid Consolidation Program. As of yesterday, Walmart is fundamentally changing how 5,000 stores get fed.
They're moving to automated consolidation centers, right? No more shipping bits and pieces to 40 different RDCs?
Exactly. Suppliers get one national purchase order. One. They ship it to an automated consolidation center, an ACC, and Walmart handles the rest with their own fleet and tech.
They're essentially turning their internal logistics into a priced service for their suppliers. It's exactly what Amazon did. They offer a price per case rate to handle the first mile.
I mean, that sounds great for Walmart's efficiency. But what does that do to the smaller LTL carriers who used to make those regional runs?
It starves them, Buck. That's the point. Walmart is grabbing the steering wheel. They want to eliminate empty miles and consolidate everything into full truckloads before it even hits their network.
Well, I mean, it's sort of a budget shock for the CPG guys, right? We're seeing a massive rollback of customer pickup arrangements. Retailers are basically saying, we don't want to handle your freight anymore unless it's on our terms.
And with tender rejections climbing to over 13%, the retailers have the leverage. If you're a manufacturer and you can't get your goods moved, you'll pay whatever Walmart asks to ensure you're in stock. Target is doing the same thing. They just saw a 10% productivity gain in Q1 because of their new Houston Receive Center.
It's the inventory resiliency era. Look, cost cutting is out. Certainty is in. If you can't guarantee the shelf is full, you're dead.
It's a big man's game. The little suppliers are going to get squeezed on these rate cards. You either use Walmart's trucks or you don't sell to Walmart. I've seen this movie before.
Well, it's a better move than having no products on the shelf, Buck. But I agree. The power shift is, well, it's tectonic.
Speaking of power shifts, it's time for Iron Lady's Verdict, our Wednesday segment where we break down the legal and regulatory risks that are actually going to cost you money today. My verdict for Wednesday, May 27th is this. The broker shield is officially dead. And if you haven't overhauled your carrier vetting software, your company is a walking liability. I'm talking about the Supreme Court's unanimous 9-0 ruling in the Montgomery versus Carib Transport 2 case. For decades, brokers relied on federal law to say that if a carrier has active authority from the government, the broker isn't responsible for what happens on the road.
But Justice Barrett basically said that's not enough anymore, right?
Correct. She wrote that the safety exception allows states to hold brokers accountable for negligent hiring. In the Montgomery case, the carrier had a conditional safety rating. and a history of qualification failures. They veered off the road, and a man lost his leg.
Well, I mean, common sense says you don't hire a carrier with a conditional rating. That's just basic trucking 101.
But Buck, how many automated brokerages are just hitting book based on a green light in a system that only checks for active status?
A lot. Most of them.
Exactly. Active authority is no longer a legal defense. If your AI or your dispatchers are booking carriers with high SMS percentiles, even if the FMCSA hasn't pulled their plates yet, you are now fully liable for a nuclear verdict. You see, the court has essentially deputized every broker into being a safety auditor.
So, if I'm an account manager, I need to tell my VP of supply chain that we can't just go with the lowest bid anymore because the safety premium is now mandatory?
Precisely. And if your broker says it's fine, they have insurance, they are lying to you. This reeling bypasses the insurance limit and goes straight for the broker's balance sheet.
I've always said, you can't trust a guy who's never kicked a tire to tell you what's safe.
Well, now the law agrees with you, Buck. That's Iron Lady's verdict for this week. Back to the show.
That's a heavy one, Elena, especially when we're seeing so much volatility elsewhere. Dan, you were looking at the energy markets this morning?
It's a red zone in the Gulf. Look, day 70 of the Hormuz blockade, 20% of the world's LNG is effectively trapped. Oil is sitting at $104 a barrel.
$104? That's going to kill the surcharges. I mean, my thing is, how is anyone supposed to plan a route when the fuel price jumps 5 cents every time someone launches a drone?
That's why the Canada-Germany LNG deal is the headline of the day. Prime Minister Mark Carney just confirmed a massive export deal from BC to Germany. 1 million metric tons a year.
It's about being a reliable alternative to the Middle East, right?
Exactly. Germany is desperate to get off Russian gas and bypass the strait. Canada is stepping up as the energy fortress. It's a $10 billion project. Kisi Lissam's LNG.
It's a strategic pivot, but it won't hit the grid for years. In the short term, we're looking at Russian diesel bans and refinery outputs at a 16-year low.
I heard they're allowing short-term licenses for Russian crude refined in places like India, just to keep the trucks moving in Europe.
They are. It's regulatory pragmatism at its messiest. We are essentially laundering fuel to prevent a total collapse of the haulage sector.
And while we're scrambling for fuel, Stored just raised $250 million at a $3 billion valuation to put agentic robots in warehouses.
Wait, agentic? Like they make their own decisions?
That's the play. It's not just a robot that moves a box. It's an AI that decides which box needs to move, where it should go, and how to optimize the transfer. Stored says they've seen a 73% efficiency jump.
And who is liable when the agentic robot decides to drop a pallet on a human worker?
Always the lawyer, Elena. Look, Stored is trying to close the Amazon gap for independent brands. They're managing $15 billion in annual volume. They're building a shared logistics layer.
I'll believe in these robots when they can chain up a set of tires in a blizzard. Until then, it's just fancy golf carts.
Well, Buck, speaking of things you actually care about, let's talk about the CDL crackdown. Because the DOT just dropped the hammer on the mills.
About time. I've been saying for years that these schools are just printing licenses.
They finalized the closure of over 550 active driver training schools. Over 500!
I mean, my thing is, they found 448 schools that were just flat out falsifying test results, employing instructors who couldn't pass a basic road test themselves.
And the new restoring integrity rule for non-domiciled CDLs kicked in. English language proficiency is now a stop-the-truck offense.
It's causing a massive ripple effect in recruiting. FedEx Freight is actually donating equipment to colleges to relaunch dormant CDL programs because they can't find enough reputable schools to hire from.
That's the way it should be. The big fleets should be building their own pipelines. I mean, you can't expect a guy to handle an 80,000-pound rig if his training was just driving a simulator for 2 days and signing a piece of paper.
It's sort of a quality over quantity shift, right? It might make the driver shortage feel worse in the short term, but we won't have the same level of claims.
Speaking of claims, did you see the $166 billion in tariff refunds?
Whew, that's a lot of zeros.
U.S. Customs is processing $20.6 billion in the first wave alone. This is all from the SCOTUS ruling that struck down the Section 301 duties.
I mean, if you're a broker or an importer, that's a massive windfall, right?
It is. But don't get comfortable. The DOJ just filed a $285 million fraud claim against First Brands Group for allegedly misclassifying goods to avoid those very same tariffs.
So they give you the money with one hand and audit you into oblivion with the other.
Precisely. They are using the refund data to cross-reference previous filings. If you cheated to save 5%, they're coming for 50%.
The government never gives you a nickel without a string attached. I mean, that's just life.
Well, look at us. We managed to cover $166 billion in refunds and a rail merger without anyone actually throwing a chair.
The day is young, Jules. Beth is going to kill me if I'm late for the soccer game again. So let's wrap this up.
Before we go, we should mention STG Logistics. They officially cleared their Chapter 11 reorganization.
$1 billion in debt wiped out. They're emerging leaner and meaner. Intermodal is coming back. Look.
Good. We need them, especially with the rails acting the way they are.
That's all for today's High Road, Logistics, and Leadership. From the $85 billion rail gamble to the end of the broker shield, it's clear the industry is prioritizing safety and certainty over just, well, moving things cheaply, right?
Actually, you see, certainty is the only way to survive 2026.
Later.
Peace out.
Goodbye. Keep the rubber side down, folks.